Join me today for another BattleTech sourcebook review, this time the Wars of Reaving. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about the BattleTech sourcebook, The Wars of Reaving. This one is published by Catalyst, and similar to the last book I talked about, Operation Klondike, this is a paperback book, unlike a lot of their more recent releases, which have been hardback books. As far as I'm aware, there's not a hardback version of this. A lot of the source books are paperback. The hardback is a recent and welcome addition. I wish these were hardback. So, The Wars of Reaving. This book is focused pretty exclusively on the clans, and it's from a period from 3067 through the end of the Jihad era, and it focuses on the clans that are still back in clan space. While it does feature clans that are in the Inner Sphere, well, you'll understand here shortly. So, the Wars of Reaving is essentially the clans in clan space deciding that their brethren who've had a little bit too much contact with the Inner Sphere have become dishonorable and should be expelled and or annihilated. So some of the clans, they initially focus their ire on Clan Jade Falcon, and they list things that they've done, like begin the use of artillery, testing themselves against Lyrans instead of fellow clan members, Lyrans, in their opinion, being inferior, things like that, allowing non-trueborns to claim blood names. And yeah, and they're not wrong in their assessment, because the clans who went to the Inner Sphere and fought there for a while eventually realized that their samurai one-on-one baloney was never going to win. They'll gain early successes due to the technological edge, but they're at a huge numerical disadvantage. And the Inner Sphere will eventually close the technological gap. And once they do, then they're done. The clans can't win at that point. And the idea that they ever could win was probably foolhardy to begin with, because it was all built on the premise that the Inner Sphere was going to bomb itself back to the Stone Age for 3 centuries, and then they'd come riding in. That part of the timeline was always like, well, we'll show back up eventually. And then eventually they kind of got tired of waiting around and sent their scout force, the Wolf's Dragoons, in to check the lay of the land and report back to them. And so, and then they launched the invasion. So they were expecting that the Inner Sphere was basically just rubble and a bunch of barbarians on unconnected planets. They didn't expect that, no, they've been fighting a pretty well endless series of wars on a total war footing across human controlled space. And yeah, their technology has stopped advancing, well, up until the discovery of the Helm Memory Core, which is, I think, 2 decades before the clan invasion. I'd have checked the date on that part. But it kind of reignited reignited scientific advancement, and actual new battle mechs were starting to be made. And so, then the clans provided a catalyst for, no pun intended, to the company that currently makes the game, for the Inner Sphere to unite to fight against them. So basically, everything they hoped would happen wasn't happening, and while they made a lot of progress early on, the moment everyone realized what they were facing, they basically united to fight back. And once the full force of the Inner Sphere was aimed at them, their battle mechs are superior, their warriors are, for the most part, better, but when you're outnumbered, I don't know, I think it's probably thousands, if not millions to one, like, you can't win. You know, you have the industrial base of, I think it's thousands of worlds versus the bare handful that the clans control. I mean, plus supply lines that stretch back to the clan homeworlds, and that's nearly a year of journeying back and forth. You know, it didn't take long before the clans themselves were fighting with inner sphere battle mechs because, you know, just attrition eventually took its toll. And they would eventually all have to come to realize that they know nothing of total warfare, and the inner sphere has spent 3 centuries perfecting it. So, of course, they're going to have to fight like the people of the inner sphere if they're going to stand any chance, which does stain their honor in their view. So, with that in mind, the Homeworld clans were like, well, get out. And so, over time, the Jade Falcons, the Wolves, the Ghost Bears, the Goliath Scorpions, the Snow Ravens, the Hell's Horses, and the Nova Cats all had to vacate or be destroyed. And some of this is talked about in the novel Icons of War, where Clan Wolf steals the McKenna's Pride, the Alexander Kerensky's flagship from the Star League, and where Alexander Kerensky's body is. They stole it from geosynchronous orbit over Stranomecti. So that book has some of the events that take place in this book in it. Namely, whenever Clan Wolf also took all their genetic material and destroyed the genetic repository behind them on the way out the door to make sure that the Kerensky DNA, that no one else possessed it. So, yeah. But eventually, the remaining clans are like, hey, so we got rid of those tainted guys, but like, we kind of feel that the taint is still here. Let's destroy the Steel Vipers, which they proceed to do. And somewhere along the way, they actually create a new clan, Stone Lion, full of like the bits and pieces of certain other clans that have been destroyed and absorbed and all kinds of other things. So at the end of it, I think there are 6 clans left standing. And then there's a subplot about the scientist cast, or some members of the scientist cast, essentially being like, yeah, we're tired of following you meatheads around. Like, we're the ones responsible for every advancement in the clans. So we should be the leaders. Like, don't worry, we'll keep making you guys excellent toys to go fight with, but we're going to control things. And the Warriors didn't take that too well. So they did all kinds of fun stuff, like they released viruses that targeted certain genetic lines. The clans had to real quickly reconcile that the scientist cast controlled the breeding program, and just other things like that. So the old scientist cast took a real hit at the end of that. Some of the clans completely purged their scientist casts. And so that definitely stalled technological advancement for a while. So you have that subplot play out. And I think there's also, I don't know if I have it, but I think there's also a PDF kind of follow-up to that part of it. The group's called the Society. And they had a couple battle mechs that they produced as well, which, you know, they're like the kind that you would think like a scientist that's not a super warrior would make, that would, you know, just be laden with all kinds of weaponry and control systems and things like that. I want to say it's the Septicema, I'm probably mispronouncing that, is one of the big ones they produced. So, you have those two things end up, and I think by the end of it, there's like 6 clans left standing. Now, the thing is, this book is more or less the last we've heard of the Homeworld clans. And this ends somewhere in like 3085, I think. Somewhere in there, that's the date that I seem to recall. And no one has heard from them since. And the current point of the timeline is 3152. So, assuming my 3085 guesstimate is correct, That means no one has heard from them in 67 years. So for all we know, like, things heated up again and they just nuked themselves into oblivion because no one's gone back. Like, no one's heard anything. Maybe they were the ones who took out the HPG grid. I doubt it. I think we're gonna think those are like Comstar and Ward of Blake hiding people. Uh, yeah. So that's and unlike the other source books, there's the bulk of it's the story, and then this is told a little bit more like a narrative. There's no like point of view character, but these things happen. There's a bunch of sidebars and boxes and explaining little details here and there along the way, and along the sides of the pages like the symbols for the clans. And as the book advances, you'll notice that there start being fewer and fewer of them. Uh, then they got the personalities at the end. Then the final pages are the final section is basically saying what each clan, like a kind of rundown of where things stand at the end with them. Then it's a little bit here at the end that I believe is for gaming purposes. Let's see. Yeah, it's stuff to help set up a Wars of Reaving campaign. Looks like probably planets that you fight over. Yeah, there's a map here. Some notable personalities. Got a rules annex. I don't know if there's any new mechs in here. There's some new variants. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, it's the Septicemia and the Osteon are society battle mechs, and the Cephalus, not syphilis, Cephalus, Cephalus. So you got three new battle mechs back here at the end. You got some proto mechs. Yeah, you got some. Probably looks like a few new weapons, some new tables, and new equipment. We have a whole section here in the rules annex, and yeah. Notable personalities. Like most of the other source books. So anyway, the other book I reviewed recently was Operation Klondike, which really covers like the foundation of the clans and then the first major military operation. So depending on how things turn out, this could essentially be the beginning of the end of the clans. If we ever get any kind of follow-up with the Homeworld Clans, I'm sure we will at some point, because similar to, the Star League forces just left. That was one of those like, oh, yeah, I'm sure they just met with some calamity out in space. Like, they're obviously going to return at some point in some form. So, obviously, the Homeworld Clans will come back. They will somehow matter to the fiction at some point. Don't know how. Don't know what's going to have happened to them. Did remnants of the Word of Blake go out there and merge with them? Did Clan Wolverine go out there and finally get their revenge on at least those 6 clans, and now Clan Wolverine rules the roost out there? Who knows? We'll probably be told these things one day. I figure, when you do that sales boost, that's when you bust out the things that you think are never going to get answered and finally throw out an answer. And that's not a criticism of Catalysm, by the way. Catalysm. It's not a criticism of Catalyst, by the way. That's just the way these things work. That's why you seed these things in a narrative. If for whenever you have that rainy day, or if you do actually have a plan for them, that helps too. But yeah, you need that little boost there somewhere along the way. Well, you've got one just sitting there. You built it in on purpose. Use it. So anyway, if you want a book that's all about the clans in the early Jihad through the end of the Jihad. Or rather, I guess probably the dissolution of the Second Star League through the Jihad era. If you want to know what's happening in the Homeworld Clans, if you want the latest up-to-date information of the Homeworld Clans. Also, it's just a really well-written source book. Also, one of my favorites. I mean, I've not really read a bad source book from these people. I think all the ones I have are from Catalyst. Yeah, I have a few from Fan Pro that I haven't read yet, but all the others I have are from Catalyst. And I haven't read a bad one, but these two and probably the first Succession War are definitely, like, to me, they're the top tier. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out. If it's available on Amazon, I'll put a link down in the description. It's an affiliate link, so like if you buy it, we get a commission essentially. Then I'm sure if it's not available, or if you don't prefer printed copy, or if it's too expensive or what have you, then the PDF should be available through Catalyst themselves, and if not them, Drive Through RPG probably has it. The book's new enough that it should have a PDF, and plus they've been going back for older books anyway and doing that. But this one should have been new enough that I believe when it was released probably had a PDF, and like I said, there should also be a follow-up that kind of zeroes in on the stuff going on with the Society. That's a separate PDF. I don't believe I have that one. Otherwise, I'll see if I do. If I do, I haven't read it. So, because I do have several that I haven't read yet. Anyway, that's about it for this one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Have you read this book? Does it sound interesting? Is there anything else you would want? Are there other kinds of things you want me to tell you about these source books? Because my two options as I see them are I can give you an idea of what's in them, tell you a few anecdotes, give you an idea where things go, or I can read them and take exhaustive notes and make this video like 2 hours long and basically tell you everything in the book. And I'm not overly inclined to do that second one, just because I view this more as I'm saying, hey, you should check this out, or maybe you should pass on this. In this case, you should check it out. As opposed to doing like an exhaustive deep dive of the lore and or just sitting there reading the book into a microphone. So that's the way I view it. But I mean, ultimately, there will probably be more lore videos down the road where there I'll give more details about some of these things, and it's not going to be like a 2-hour affair or anything. But I might do a summary of the events of this book, tell you who killed who got destroyed where, when, and why, that kind of thing. But I'm going to need a lot more free time to do that, because I will have to go back and reread these, because not everything in it is committed to memory, and I have to take notes so that I can actually, really tell you guys. Because when it comes to the ones I've marked as lore videos, which even this one will fall into that because it is a lore product, but like the straight up lore videos, like the Project Phoenix, the Dark Age videos, I try to make sure it's either something that I have read up on recently, so it's all still up here, or something that I know a lot about, like the Dark Age stuff. And whereas these source books, I do recall a lot of details, but not an exhaustive level to actually do what I would call an exhaustive lore video on the topic. So let me know what your thoughts on that are. And going forward, I'll try to, as I read the newer lore books, I'm going to try to take notes on them. So if I want to come back and do that, it'll be easier for me to do that. But yeah, so that's about all I've got to say. So, here's my sales pitch. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting are the best way to help us grow the channel if you feel so inclined. And obviously subscribing helps too, but if you don't want to do that, it's up to you. It's fine. We'll appreciate it though. But otherwise, thank you folks for watching, and remember, no guts, no galaxy.